We have all types of relationships which have all types of needs. And so we are always, when God places us in a relationship, it's designed to, A, meet the needs of that person, and for that person to meet our needs. That's why God brought us into that relationship. Even though it may seem negative or despondent or whatever, it was designed with a purpose. I was brought into the relationship with a purpose. And anytime you're having drama or trouble, it speaks to an unmet need, an unfulfilled need. Many times we got to understand, well, what is this person looking for? Why are we clashing all the time? What is it that they need that I am not giving? What is it that this boss or this coworker needs? What is it? Maybe they just need, First Lady, maybe they just need attention. Maybe they need to feel important. So make them feel important. Maybe they need to feel in charge. Make them feel in charge. You got to understand that when we're reaching conflict and fighting, it's an unmet need. When people are crying, it's an unmet need. It's your responsibility and your job to meet that need and to understand this. God would not have put you in the relationship if you didn't have what they needed. Okay, I'm going to stop right there.
Amen.
So we talked to you about storing it. It speaks that, a lot of times we got to treat relationships like a bank. You got to put something in the bank before you start writing checks.
Absolutely.
We talked about fixing it before you break it, feeling it before you paralyze it, and fighting it before the devil destroys it. Speaking to physical, emotional, and spiritual needs that we all have. Now, we're going to break this down today and really break down, and this is why you really want to study this book, His Needs, Her Needs. Because what we want to really do today is take a little time dealing with what is called the 10 basic needs. The 10 basic needs. There are plenty of other needs I just talked about. Some people need to feel like they're in charge. Some people need to feel important. But we want to talk about 10 basic needs tonight. But let's start out talking about the stewards. Everybody say stewards. Stewards of meeting needs. First Lady.
Yes, and we have to understand that we do not belong to ourselves, that our bodies belong to God. And I think if we make that the foundation of our life, we will understand how important our life is to God and that we matter. And we will also understand just how vital we are. No one is ever, never, ever insignificant or not vital. You are, because you are who God created. And so 1 Corinthians chapter 3, 16 through 17 says, "Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy. Which temple are ye?"
The Bible says the Holy Spirit lives in our body. Now, the thing that we got to understand here is that we don't possess or own anything. We are merely stewards. A steward is a person, I got the definition here, that conducts, supervises, or manages something for somebody else. The careful, responsible management of something that you have been entrusted. Something that you have been entrusted. I really like my Hummer. When it first came out, I was eyeing it. I said, boy, I really like that. But I ain't want to spend no money. But I was really enjoy that vehicle. Now, if I said, listen, I need you to babysit my Hummer for me, and I gave you the keys, and you would have full access to it, you'll be able to drive it and do whatever you wanted with it. But if I came back and asked you for my Hummer and there was a dent in the right quarter panel, McDonald's paper wrappers and ketchup stains on the back seat, you're not working with me. I gave it to you on full, it's on E. And I forgot to get the oil change, so I left it up on side of 40. And you got to go get it. Has somebody ever borrowed a car and then they broke and they told you where it was? Oh, no, y'all ain't working with me like that. No, some people, seriously, they said, listen, there's a car broke down and it's over there on 40. That wouldn't make a very good steward. Because the thing is that not only is it not yours, but you should value it just for, number one, a person entrusted it to you.
Absolutely.
You should even value it more than if it was yours. Because they thought highly of you to let you hold it for them, and then you want to give it back to them in good shape. This is what a steward is. Now, here's the thing I want you to understand. So your bodies is not yours, but guess what? When you enter into a relationship, that is God entrusting yet another body to you. When I married Grace, she didn't become my property. God entrusted her to me. God was so adamant about that thing that he said if I didn't take care of her properly, look at 1 Peter, I believe it's 3:7 or 5:7. He said, if you don't take care of this weaker vessel, and the word weaker there is precious like fine china, then your prayers will be hindered. See, y'all got to understand something. Truth is truth. And even though I may be talking about a marital relationship, you got to understand and value every relationship. And if it's true for a husband and a wife, it's true for a coworker. It's true for a church member. I entrusted that relationship to you. That's why I get so frustrated with church folk and crazy pastors and these crazy leaders whom God has entrusted people's lives to. And people are making spiritual decisions based upon that relationship of the pastor or the prophet. And then he takes advantage and abuses and misuses that relationship. And all of a sudden that person is despondent, don't want nothing to do with church, don't want nothing to do with anything because of the abuse of that relationship, the manipulation of that relationship. Do you understand that God has a problem with that? Amen. God said, those weren't your people. I entrusted. Y'all making me preach in this place because y'all sitting there looking at me like I'm cross-eyed or confused, discombobulated or something. But I'm preaching, and the bottom line is that everybody in your life God entrusted to you to do right by them. There are people that are walking around here crazy and frustrated and aggravated because God entrusted a relationship and somebody took advantage of it and abused it. So, because we are stewards then, Luke 16:12 says, and if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's. Folk wondering, Lord, when am I going to get a breakthrough? God said, how are you handling the stuff, the people, the relationships, the money, the things I've already entrusted into you? Yes. I want to be married, but you can't even treat your coworker right. I want a husband, but you can't even treat your church members correctly. Oh, I'm preaching in this place. It's not yours. Your body don't belong to you. In 1 Corinthians 7:14, the wife has not power of her own body, but the husband has not power of his own body, but the wife. God says, that's not yours. Take advantage. Take care of it. Take care of it. We are stewards. And so, as a steward, you need to know what the thing that you've been entrusted with needs. How can you take advantage? I mean, how can you take care of me when you don't know what I need? How can you take care of your husband when you don't know what your husband needs? How can you take care of your wife when you don't know what your wife needs? How can you take care of your church members or your coworkers when you don't understand their needs? First Lady?
Yes, and the power behind that is understanding that because God has given us this body that we have to manage, to be a good steward of. He's expecting us to be accountable. When we stand before the Lord and the Lord asks us, what did you do with what I gave you? Then, he's going to look at us just like he did the steward that he gave one, and he gave 1 5. The one that got 5 multiplied. He worked what God gave him. The one that had gotten 1, he went and buried his. And so you have to think in your relationship now, the people that God has brought into your life, How are you managing them? What are you doing with what God has given you? Are you going tit for tat because they do you wrong? You're going to do them wrong? Well, guess what? They're going to have to give an account, but you're going to have to give an account to God for doing that. And especially if you know to do good. And see, we're in a position right now where we're learning. I want you to nudge a person next to you and say, you have the responsibility to do right once you've gotten the knowledge. Amen. So we're getting knowledge tonight. We know how we're going to do in our relationships.
When needs aren't met, it causes, at a minimum, two situations. One is the person suffers the consequences of not having that need met, i.e., if a woman doesn't get enough iron, she becomes anemic. And so she goes through fatigue and weakness and fainting and depression and hair loss, slow social. Y'all not helping me. All because a need is not being met. If a person is diabetic and they don't get their insulin, they can faint. In other words, there's consequences to not meeting needs. And a lot of times what we're going through in our relationships are just the consequences of an unfulfilled need, an unmet need. Folks just fainting on you. They're just getting irritable.
Yes.
You know how them children are when they haven't eaten? Or it's late and they haven't slept? It's an unmet need. And that's what we're running into in relationships. And so you suffer the consequences of that. The other thing is you become vulnerable to getting those needs met from an improper source. So if I'm not getting it where I should be getting it and how I should be getting it, then I might take it from somebody else who ain't got no business giving it to me.
Yes.
Okay, y'all ain't working with me. They ain't no business giving it to me because they are wrong, they're improper, they may not even know what dosage I need. They may be, okay, preach. It may be the wrong amount, it may be the wrong thing, it may be poisoned. Any number of things can happen. It could just be as simple as I'm trying to lose weight, and because I'm not getting a good meal cooked at home, I'm eating food out the vending machine all the time and trying to figure out why I'm still getting fat. Because if I had a nice, proper breakfast in the morning, a nice, proper dinner, I would walk right past that vending machine. Get a little bag of chips. They got 350 calories in it, and you get 4 of them. Talking about, boy, why ain't you ate nothing? What's going on? Going by McDonald's on your way home.
Yes.
Give me a double quarter pounder with cheese, with double cheese.
A biggie.
Fries, a Coke, 2 apple pies for $1. Let me get that shake thing y'all got. Yeah, that one right there. And supersize it. Take my calories from 1,500 to 2,500. And by the time I get home, I done ate it in the car. Y'all not working with me. Just blowing up all over the place. Stop. It's because I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable. Most affairs happen because people are vulnerable. Most people get led astray because they were vulnerable. Yes. Listen, when you satisfied, when you're full, you ain't looking for nothing else to eat. Y'all not helping me, brother? All right. So let's go through this real quickly, First Lady. We're going to get through these 10 real quick. Number 1, everybody say affection. Affection, First Lady.
Affection is the environment of the relationship. In Colossians chapter 3, 1 through 2, it says, "If ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affection," your feelings, your love, set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. So again, when you look at affection and you think about what the problem is with affection, it's we find ourselves not being able to stick or stay with that person. We go from relationship to relationship. There is no bond. There is no affection. There is not the cement that holds that relationship together. So the problem is that we suffer, again, with not being affectionate. You said, a lot of times you hear people say, I'm not the affectionate type. I was brought up and raised in a home where we didn't show emotions. We didn't show affections. We didn't hug each other. We didn't kiss each other. Well, you know what? I grew up in a very affectionate family. We hugged each other. We kissed each other. We always say, I love you. I mean, it's so easy to say it when we getting ready to leave each other. We hug each other again. We hug each other 10 times. You know, didn't you just hug me a while ago? Well, yeah, but we're very affectionate. And so even to this day, I mean, I've gone to or been in relationship with other people that aren't affectionate, but they become affectionate. Why? Because if you're in the company of someone who's affectionate and they're showing you affection every day, it will rub off on you. So it tells me then that it's something that we can learn. We can learn to be affectionate even if we're not. If our relationship depends on it to cement it, to keep it together, then I tell you, we can do it. High five the person next to you and say, we can do it.
Affection creates an atmosphere that invites. Affection says, increased atmosphere says that this environment cares about me. That's why we must not just be a destination where people come to get entertained at Victorious Praise, but we must create an atmosphere. That when people come, they feel welcome, they feel loving. One of the new members said this to me. They said, Pastor, let me tell you why I joined this church. I went to another church, and she said, and they had a lot of nice little programs going on, and she said, after service, I went home. No, I went out to dinner, and by the time I got home, they had a nice little welcome basket with little goodies in it sitting at my front door. And I thought that was impressive, except for one problem. When I was at church, nobody acted like they even knew who I was. So she's saying, like, now y'all gonna bring me stuff, but you could have been nice to me when you saw me.
Absolutely.
Okay, y'all still ain't got this.
Yes.
Don't send me flowers. Give me my flowers when you're right next to me.
Absolutely.
And so they said, and that was the difference with us, was that they felt that love when they walked in, when the ushers and the hospitalities and those folks put their hands around them, when we welcomed them in the church and greeted them. She said, well, folks looked like I was a stranger, like I had the plague or something when I was at the church, and they want to give me all this stuff when I'm gone. And so that environment is so important. And the First Lady said, anybody can learn it. You know what? It's about practice. It's about practice making perfect. Something becomes a habit when you do it for 30 days. I was one of those that weren't a very affectionate person. Let me stop. We got to move on. But you know what? I learned. I made a decision. I'm going to kiss my wife every time I see her. I wasn't an affectionate. That wasn't a part of me. I don't go around telling I love you. That's not me. But I made a decision and I started practicing it until it became habit. It became a part of me. And so affection doesn't have to be I am or am not. Practice it until it becomes a part of you. Intimacy. Everybody say intimacy. Now, with husbands and wives, we're clearly talking about the intimacy of knowing your wife's sex, that type of thing. But you got to understand something, that intimacy, the difference between intimacy and affection is that it is the event. Affection is the environment. Intimacy is the event. Yeah. Let me say that again. Affection creates a certain environment. And if it's the right environment, it leads to an event. Am I helping anybody? Yes. And so doing the event without the environment, y'all still ain't working with me. So, in other words, what those people did at that church that I was just describing to you was they did an event. They brought a goodie bag to the house. But the event did not accompany an environment. Yes. Y'all ain't working with me. So therefore, the event could not be appreciated because the environment was not set. Okay, I'm glad that you recognize me on my birthday, but you ain't said nothing to me all year. Valentine, here your Valentine flower.